What is up, everyone? Here we are with the third qualifier for the Game TV Invitational Tournament. This tournament is taking place on 17th of May, probably going to be uploaded about a week after that. Currently, our qualified players are Lopatka, Alicia Destiny, Agent Shadows, and Victor Bansimer. Those players are not going to be eligible to participate. And our prizes today is going to be Vanity for first and second, $10 for first as well, just as finals, as playing for something, and we have one vanity item for viewers / participants, which will be done via the almighty medium of marbles. Truly the most fair way to give out items. Okay, so without any further ado, we have Black Razor with us here today. Say hello, Black Razor.
Hello, Black Razor.
Hilarious. That's actually hilarious. All right, let's get underway. Game 1, Green Throw versus Zenerol. The first round.
This week it's looking pretty interesting in the Game TV qualifier tournament because, as you say, those four big name players already qualified couldn't play again, and we had SRPSS signed up to play, and he seemed like a shoo-in. He'll probably qualify fairly easily. He dropped out at the last second. So it's sort of up in the air who's going to win.
It's pretty open. I gotta say, also, we've had Zenerol play the last few qualifiers, and he has been pretty unlucky with his matchups. I believe he played Maximus round 1 the first 2 tournaments. It was obviously Maximus usually comes fourth, about fourth. And then he played Charlie before the semis, or maybe in the semis. I think before the semis in the quarters last week, and now he's playing Charlie again round 1 today, so pretty rough matchups for Zenerol, going up against some of the stronger players here.
Yeah, absolutely. Without the huge regular tournament winners in the mix, I think Charlie definitely one of the ones that I would pick out as a pretty heavy favorite this week. But Zenerol is obviously he's ranked 5th on the ladder at the moment and has been ranked higher previously, so he's no slouch. He loves his tech. That's what he's brought, a double tech deck with us. These don't have great base killing potential though, so do you think Zenerol's going to be able to win without the base killing aspect that he usually brings?
I think the majority of Zenerol's wins come from Liang, honestly. This Liang is not going to get much work done though. I would say generally his ladder play, certainly Liang is a colossal aspect of why he wins games, and you know, he's still got Liang, and this deck is still decent with Liang, so. But Charlie with his own Liang counters.
Yeah, does win the missile.
Yeah, it does take that missile. We haven't really talked about the decks yet, but it is interesting to see that Zenerol, as you say, he's not playing those base killing tech units this time. He's playing more combat-oriented map control base tech units. Greeno playing the classic SRPSS Titan deck. This deck generally has proven to be one of the better decks in tournament play, possibly the best at the moment. The theory is that you play these expensive units and then you tighten your opponent's harvesters and just wipe out their economy, and then you have infinite money to make hammerheads, titans, and razorbacks that kill everything in the game. As you can see, Greeno is sticking to the plan. Unfortunately, he did take a titan shot on the way past, which means that it's actually going not great for him here. But Liang saves his first titan, and he uses razorback to kill those zones, so it's actually looking very good for Greeno now. I thought he was going to lose that first titan, but by the Liang drone saving it is a huge deal here. And now it's looking like Charlie's just going to take the game very easily.
Yeah, he went down for the half with the first Titan. He saw him actually ignore Zenerol's Titan in favor of going for the Harvester, trying to wipe out the economy. But it ends up just really both missiles being won by Razorback.
Here we are, guys. Game 2, Zenerol versus Greeno. This time we're going to be on Battlefield, and we're seeing a Liang mirror again. Makes sense. Playing a tournament, people want to win, so, you know, everyone's playing tech.
Zenerol has reverted back to giving himself the base killing out. 2 tech wasn't enough to win the last game, so he's gone for 3 tech this time.
Building online.
Yeah, so he's back on this is back on his ladder deck now. So this is the one that he plays on ladder all the time, the triple base kill deck. Greeno playing the same Titan deck as before. This is, I believe, probably one of the best, if not the best tournament deck currently in the metagame. So yeah, we're going to see the double harvester. There are counters to this deck, but if you bring a counter to the Titan deck, your deck is going to be weak to other stuff. Like, you have to bring a deck that is only good versus the Titan deck, basically. Which means if your opponent has switched to a different deck, your deck is now going to be very, very weak. Because you play a lot of very situational units, specifically to counter the units in the Titan deck. So we don't see people making that play very often.
So we've had a fairly standard opening here. We've had infantry from both sides engaging. A little bit of pop capping from Charlie. He switches into Razorback. General responds with Pitbull. I think General's deck is slightly different to his ladder deck. Does he not only have Kodiak and not Titan?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, he does have Titan instead of Kodiak, so it's slightly different.
Yeah, and he's actually spent quite a lot of money on this first missile, and it's going to lose because he spent quite a lot opening up his buildings.
Yep.
Whilst Charlie's just operating off the back of the power of the Razorback. And we see the first Titan coming out on both sides. I think General will just... Okay, Charlie's actually ignoring his Harvey, saying you can take the half, mate. I'm going to go after your economy with my Titan. But General's got a second Titan out, and General is a master of planting tech units in the middle of the map / the opponent's base.
That's true.
And they've both got Liang Drone available. So it's going to be interesting. I think General's going to be in good shape with the Liang Drone here.
I agree. This first missile is not that relevant in a tech mirror. What matters in the tech mirror is who makes more Titans, which currently is General, because he got those 2 Harvester kills. So Charlie was leaving that 1 missile on the Harvester because he was like, I'm happy for you to be chipping at my Harvester if you lose pop cap for the missile. But I think that's actually a misplay, because all that matters in a Titan mirror like this is who makes more Titans. But General is not on the pads. He's just abandoned the missile.
He got too
wow.
excited about the halves. They marched both Titans towards the halves. You have to win the second missile. If you have the tech ascendancy, win the second missile, then the game, you'll just win the game.
Yeah, I think General...
the base, or dominating the map, but you have to take the second missile.
Alright guys, here we are, Matt versus Conrad. This is still a round 1 match, because round 1's been going a little slower than usual. So we are going to feature a second round 1 match. And let's see what we've got here. So it's a Liang mirror again, and both players playing the SRPSS Titan deck. Wow, this deck has really taken over the metagame here. I gotta say, if it's this popular, if people are playing it this regularly, people should just be bringing counter decks. But as I said before, the issue is that if you bring a counter deck and they don't play the Titan deck, then your deck is probably going to be quite bad in the matchup.
Yeah, this is certainly the meta deck, the deck to beat, as it were. I know Conrad is a very active player. I'm not sure about Matt, but I know Conrad's very active, so he's definitely up to date with the tournament meta. So you could predict him bringing it. Maybe he just thinks it is just the best deck, and it's not worth people counter decking.
Yeah, maybe it's definitely confusing how much this deck is seeing play now. I do think it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. Because I think that the deck is not that strong. It's just that because SRPSS won with it so much, everyone is now like, well, the deck must be insane.
So that's first missile to Conrad with the Liang. But it's not that surprising because Matt did go into the second half. So he kind of expects to lose the first missile. He also went Razorback, and Conrad immediately had the Pitbull to compete and then used the Liang drone as well. So Conrad committing more to winning the first missile, whilst Matt committing more to making sure he gets the Titan out, which he has already at 124. He's going to defend his own Harvester, or is he going to wander across? He's going to defend his own Harvester first. And he's actually managed to defend both so far, which is a huge deal. And now he's going to march across the map and try and get Conrad, which is what he should do.
No, I really like defending the Harvesters here, because Conrad is only on 1 half, and the winner is the person who gets more Titans. So your opponent getting 80 Tiberium here matters a lot because they can make Titans. Also, Matt made a really nice play here, where on the first missile, when he was clearly going to lose it, he didn't like suicide units trying to stall. He just saved his Razorback and kept it alive, and now the same Razorback is still alive and doing work. I think that was a really nice play. You see a lot of people just suiciding units to try and stall a little bit longer, and it costs them more money than it's worth. Matt just went, yeah, you know what, that's your missile, man. Congrats, and kept his Razorback alive. So I really like that play.
Very smart. It's difficult to assess when that's going to happen, and obviously you don't want to give up the missile for free because it's half your base life. But yeah, you are right. He did correctly assess that he was going to lose the missile, kept his resources, and now is definitely, like, unless something like what happened in the general match happens, these 3 Titans are going to march across the map, and he's got this game in the bag, I think. Yeah,
I think that given that Matt was double Harvester, he knew he was going to lose that missile, so it was quite easy to identify when that missile was done, because he's double Harvester, there's no way he can contest it. And this is his win condition. This is how you're supposed to play the tech mirror. The first missile doesn't matter at all in a tech mirror, because it's just about making more tech units. Once he gets this many Titans, Conrad can't possibly kill them. So that's what tech is. That's how you play tech decks. You don't care about first missile at all. because it's just about making more tech units than your opponent. Alright guys, here we go. Game 2, Matt versus Conrad. Looks like Conrad, after getting whooped in that Titan mirror, has decided to switch deck. He's playing Solomon now. So interested to see if this is an attempt at countering the Titan deck, or if this is going to be some other shenanigans. I think his plan is simply to play aggressive and to close out the game by iron cannoning the first Titan, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah,
very unusual deck here. He's got shock troopers as well.
I think he's said, I tried playing the meta deck, my opponent played it better than me, maybe more experienced with it, so I'm going to change my strategy. I'm going to try and be more aggressive, bringing something similar to a sort of aggressive Solomon Red style deck.
Yeah, so I like what he's doing here. The reason he's playing the units he is, okay, well, I think this is a misplay. I was going to say, I believe the plan is shock troopers beat riflemen. If you get equal numbers of shock troopers, the shock troopers win by a lot. And then you can tech switch into Talon to punish a Razorback, because Talon is one of the best ways to punish a Razorback tech switch. But instead, Conrad went Pitbull, which I think is a huge misplay. And you can see here that he can't actually kill the Razorback. Now, Matt has chosen to put the Razorback on the bottom pad. I think he should have sent it top there. So it actually ends up not doing very much against this Pitbull. I think he should have split it and sent it top. So the Pitbull had to follow up top with top direction. But yeah, so Matt loses this first missile and doesn't have a second harvester yet. He's actually built 3 buildings instead. So I think that's also a big misplay. Like, if you're going to play this Titan deck, if you're going to lose the first missile that quickly, you probably have to try and, you know, get your Titans out quickly. And that's not looking very likely for Matt.
Yeah, the aggression has paid off for Conrad. I was also surprised he went Pitbull rather than the Talon. I think the Talon would have been a good follow-up there. But it's worked out for Conrad so far, and he is just dominating the map. The Razorback is still getting good value, but he's dominating the map at the moment. And the missile is almost fired for the second time, and there's nowhere close to the Titan here for Matt.
Yeah, and this basically is what I've been saying before about how you can just play an aggressive deck against this Titan deck and just close the game out, and that's exactly what Conrad does. He just plays a very aggressive deck with powerful mid-rangey units like Shocks and Jump Jets and Mohawks, and just shuts down Matt before Matt can get to the tech. Alright guys, here we go. 1-1 match point. Conrad versus Matt. Conrad sticking with the Solomon deck. Matt has switched it up. He's going Nod this time.
3, 2, 1.
Conrad bringing exactly the same deck, and Matt has switched into a Fnatic aggro deck, the classic Fnatic aggro self-tank 4 War Factory deck, which is very meta right now. So now that Conrad is playing, as I was saying before, if you play a deck that counters the Titan deck, it's usually quite weak to other stuff. I think Conrad's deck is not great versus this Fnatic deck, but it's okay. He's like, it comes down to how well Matt plays these Fnatics. I think Fnatics make Shocks and Flames pretty embarrassing if you play them well, but if you play them badly, then they just get wrecked, because they lose 1v1 very badly. As you watch here, these Shocks are going to annihilate these Fnatics pretty easily 1v1, although Conrad mid-micros there a little bit. Takes a lot of extra damage than he needed to. Almost, in fact, loses the Shocks to the 2-man wheel. He should have won that matchup a lot easier than that. But Conrad's going to take a missile and a harvester kill, putting him pretty far in the lead here.
So Conrad's deck is slightly different. He switched out the Talon for the Drone Swarm. And so he did something really smart at the start, where I think he saw that in the loading screen Matt switched to Nod, and he opened with the missiles, expecting this sort of meta deck, which always opens with the wheel. So he was prepared. He adapted to what he saw his opponent bring. This matchup has actually been pretty interesting with the deck changes and the opening unit decisions. And these guys have kind of meted each other each game, which is really interesting to see.
Yeah, sure. Conrad, yeah, as you say, he adapted his opening based on the fact that he saw a Seth and was expecting wheel opening, and it did end up winning him the early game. And then he took a harvester and the first missile. It's looking pretty good for Conrad here. Matt has not really... Like, Matt's deck has these Scorpions in, which are supposed to punish Pitbulls, but he hasn't really made one. And he's been using Bikes, which haven't been overly effective against the Pitbulls, so...
Yeah,
not that many Fanatics from Matt either.
Has been, generally speaking, better in the last 2 games. I think perhaps Conrad wasn't as familiar with the meta deck and just brought it because he thinks it's meant to be the best deck. Yeah. And he switched into something he's more comfortable with his aggressive playstyle, and he's just looked a class above Matt in the last 2 games.
Yeah, and he dominates that one pretty easily there. So congratulations to Conrad. Here we go, guys. Round 2. Boswell versus Byah. So still best of 3. We've got a Jackson versus Seth. I expect we're going to see from Byah his traditional deck that he's basically been playing since the game started. I think Byah played this deck in beta and has just never changed it, never updated. So I think his deck is a little outdated these days. However, I think Hammerhead is actually at one of the best places it's ever been in Rivals. So
not in this matchup.
No, in this matchup it's going to have 0 targets, so it's going to be a little bit weaker. This is going to come down to again, like the shocks, I think, are kind of embarrassing against well-played Fanatics. And Byah's only anti-infantry is shocks and riflemen. So a wall of Fanatics on defense is going to be something Byah basically can't break ever. Because shocks and rifles can't walk into defensive Fanatics if there's at least 2 of them. So yeah, I think Boswell is a pretty talented player. I think we're going to see Boswell play his Fanatics pretty well. And it's going to be rough for Byah to try and deal with those Fanatics when all he has is shocks and rifles. So Boswell takes first missile very easily. Scorpion kills the Pitbull. Fanatics kill the missiles. And also Byah loses these shocks at the same time as well. So yeah, not looking great for Byah. I think this game is going to be a pretty good example of why Fanatics have pushed shocks and flames kind of out of the metagame. Because they're just so expensive and Fanatics are so popular and make them look kind of bad. But yeah, maybe we'll see Byah pull something out.
Yeah, the amount of value that Boswell's got out of this tank, like when it got boosted, it just wrecked face and then retreated back a little bit because it was so fast it could get out without taking too much damage. And it's still going around shooting things. It's still getting a lot of value out of it.
This is still the first tank.
This tank so well. I think he's probably just gonna take the game. He's gonna block on top. And yeah, really nicely played game from Boswell.
Pretty dominant performance from Boswell there. The boosted Scorpion was insane. The Fanatics killed the missiles ridiculously quickly, making them a non-unit. And that game is a pretty good example of why Fanatics are so good. Game 2, round 2, Byah versus Boswell. Currently 1-0 to Boswell. Byah has switched deck after getting, I don't want to be rude, but getting curb stomped pretty savagely there by the Fanatics. Byah has switched to his Nod deck. This also, by the way, I believe he's been playing basically since beta. The only change he made is to put wheels in when wheels came out. But yeah, this is a very old school standard Nod aggro deck with the Scorpion and the Banshee. Again, I think Boswell is just massively favored because what's going to happen here is this is going to be mostly a tank battle. Both players have Scorpion as their primary unit, and Boswell's going to have boosted Scorpions from Fanatics, and Byah is not. So I think Boswell is again going to be heavily favored in this matchup. Byah's trump card, as it were, is the Banshee that can kill the Scorpions for free, except that Boswell's playing Stealth Tank, which immediately kills Banshees and therefore punishes them pretty hard. If Byah switches into the Banshee, it's going to cost him 110 for the building plus Banshee, and then Boswell just has to spend 100 to kill it. And then that Stealth Tank is still going to be useful afterwards. So, yeah, I think Byah is pretty unfavored in this matchup again. But here we go, first missile. Boswell has good control. He's on the middle of his Scorpion with full hit points. Byah's going to try and sneak these flames on. Doesn't get there in time. Boswell does take first missile. Mostly via just slightly better War Factory play, I'd say. Byah was not able to punish those lasers quickly enough, so the lasers did get a lot of work done. He went for a drill pod to try and take out the lasers, but didn't manage it in time. And Boswell takes first missile pretty comfortably. Boswell pretty heavily pop capped here. But obviously Byah has a tank, so it's going to be very easy for Boswell to suicide these units into it.
Yeah, he also pushes them forward onto the half, forcing a response from Byah. And Byah has to kill the units and clear up a bit of the pop cap for him. Interesting, Boswell's now gone into a stealth tank.
Yeah,
is that a good response to the Preds? Or?
No, I think it's a pretty bad choice, honestly. It almost one-shot Scorpions, but doesn't actually finish them off. I think it's worse than just having more Scorpions, but we'll see. He does bring in bikes to finish off the last bit of the Scorpions, so it does work out quite nicely. He clearly knows how to play this matchup. But here you see, here comes the Fanatics as well. Scorpion tank goes down, doesn't quite go down to the stealth tank, but almost does. There it is. And Boswell has good control again and just takes the match pretty easily. I think Boswell didn't really show off the power of the Fanatics in that second game, but he did in the first game. And I think Boswell was just pretty heavily favored on deck both games there because Fanatics are so much stronger than anything Byah was bringing. Okay, round 3, game 1. We've got Great Boy versus, I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm going to call him Tet. 2 new players here today. We haven't seen either of these guys on camera before. That's why we picked this matchup. So interested to see what they both bring. The Great Boy is bringing a Venom Marauder deck. Very weird deck. No lasers. Only. Oh, he's got Phantom. If you don't have lasers, you basically have to play Phantom in your deck. Yeah, Great Boy's deck's very weird. It does look very good versus Nod though, which Tet has also brought. So yeah, I think Great Boy's in pretty good shape here.
Yeah, his deck might match up okay, but he is losing all of the early engagements. I guess he's waiting for the beefy boys to come out.
Yeah, I think letting both of those riflemen go was a pretty big misplay. Also, building the second one didn't really achieve much, so...
But the boost from Tetra, just kind of a spew there. Spent 30 on the boost into mutants, which then just killed the wheels super fast. Boosting low-cost units, unless they're like super high DPS, and it's like when a missile's being contested, not generally speaking a good idea.
I think his plan was that if Great Boy had not responded and switched target to the boosted wheels, he probably would have chewed up those mutants, but Great Boy immediately changed target to the boosted wheels. So it ended up getting punished.
Rather than like getting aggressive on it and hoping his opponent makes the error.
Yeah. But here, Great Boy I think should have gone into these laser drones sooner. The fact that he's gone triple building, he's just really far behind on the field because he spent all of his money on teching into triple building. And Tet just went 2 building and pretty much just had more efficiency because of the 2 buildings and was able to secure both pads. I think Great Boy really wanted to go laser drones sooner. That's really the key unit in a Nod mirror here.
Yeah, if you've got laser drones in your deck and you're playing a Nod mirror, that's the unit you should be leaning on early on because Nod is just bad against laser drones early on. Yep,
they only really have lasers, which are very easily punished, so...
Some super aggressive boost from Tetra in this match. He's boosting a lot. It's 30 Tiberium, which is not like a massive amount, but having access to the ability is pretty powerful. And spamming it that often can mean that your battlefield presence is a bit reduced, which we're seeing now. Looks like he's gonna maybe lose the missile. Yeah, it gets blocked. I think he's gonna.
It's kind of close. I think the buggy gets on as well. Yeah, the buggy gets there in time, and that should be Great Boy's missile. And here you see this is a classic misplay from Tet. He's just throwing units to contest the missile. He just wasted 100 Tiberium. That's a stealth tank he just wasted. That's a very expensive unit, and it did nothing. Actually, he just died whilst he was trying to contest that missile. And like at that point, you should just accept the missile is not yours to win and not spew any more money at it because 100 Tiberium is a lot.
Yeah, it's something you talked about earlier when we watched Matt in the first round when he knew he lost the missile, preserved his expensive Razorback, keep the units around so that you can use them later in the game. Because this game is obviously going to go to a third missile at that point, and losing the stealth tank is a big deal because it is his most expensive unit, and he also has been spamming these boosts, so he wants to have access to that kind of thing. He's so far behind on the map though. He needs to make like multiple units to try and engage the setup position from Great Boy.
Yep. And I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that when he lost that stealth tank, he had to build a new stealth tank, which meant he didn't have any money, which meant that he could not build the correct units to get back on the field. And Great Boy he just never got back on the field after losing that 100 cost. Game 2, round 3, Great Boy versus Tet. Great Boy is up 1-0, I believe, and both players have switched to GI now, so we're seeing Solomon versus Strong Arm.
2, 1. New objective available.
Oh no, we've got an MG.
Oh dear.
It's okay, it's not with Liang. For some reason it's with Strong Arm. Maybe he's just going with an MG-themed deck.
Yeah, a lot of his units have MGs on them. I gotta say, I think MG is very good on this map. I think Strong Arm is very good on this map. I think that Great Boy is just going no-half MG. I think that's what we're seeing here. And actually, Liang is probably still the correct commander to play, even with no-half MG. Just because Liang MG is such an egregious combo. I actually think MGs without Liang are kind of whatever. Yeah, this MG just dies to the first tech switch. But Tet also is no-halving, I just realized. Yeah.
They've both forgotten their harvesters and they're just playing what looks a bit like the first missile challenge that Coffee Cat ran yesterday, where almost everyone was just playing no-half cheap units.
I actually think that Great Boy is playing no-half intentionally because he's playing the MG deck. And I think Tet, and I gotta give him credit here. I think he actually just realized it was a no-halve MG, so just decided to forego Harvester in an attempt to not get the MG, not let the MG get set up,
Yeah,
which I think is quite a smart play. But then also, it's the kind of error you can make when playing a deck like Tet. Because Tet has Solomon, he doesn't need to be afraid of MGs. He can let MGs set up and then just get rid of them later. And his deck doesn't function well without a Harvester. So I think in the heat of the moment, it's like, it feels like a smart play to forego your Harvester to stop the MG setting up. But actually, your opponent's deck is just designed to work without a Harvester, and yours is not. So I think you're actually just making your deck too weak. And because Tet, especially because Tet is playing Solomon, his deck is not just a deck that folds to MG, like a lot of decks do. His deck is very good versus MG because he has Solomon. So I think he's made a massive error here by going no halve. And it's going to cost him the game because now he isn't going to have Solomon for the MGs.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I agree with you. It seemed like it was a pretty good plan, but there's a point at which you have to make the halve because your deck is designed to operate with a Harvester.
Yep, and Great Boy takes it fairly comfortably, actually. It was close first missile. If Tet has taken that first missile, then there's a very good argument for what he's done here. Because then he has forever to save up for the Solomon. But by losing that first missile, he just put himself in an unwinnable position. Here we go, guys. First semi-finals, Maximus versus Greeno. So this is going to be a best of 5 now that we're in the semis. Both of these players, classic regulars. These guys always making the top of tournaments, so not surprised to see them here. Maximus, of course, perennial 4th placer. Always comes 4th, so Greeno is the heavy favorite based on that.
That is true, yeah. These guys, if you've watched the previous tournaments or you watch any Rivals tournaments, these guys are in all the tournaments, and they're always just below the top because they lose to the people who aren't playing this week. So they're both looking to take their shot this week and qualify for the grand finals.
Yeah, as you say, these players both regularly come top 4, but have not made top 2 yet. But I think these are 2 of the heavy favorites now that we're missing Alicia and Victor and some other top players like the Packer and Agent. Well, those 4 are qualified. I think these 2 are both heavy favorites, so it's not surprising to see that one of them at least is going to make the finals.
So we see both players make a bunch of infantry, and then both players switch into air and make the infantry completely irrelevant. Maximus actually gets the best of it going into the Talon,
whilst
Greeno goes for the Razorback. I think this is something Greeno should really be able to predict against Maximus, because this is what Maximus tends to do all the time. He loves playing this Talon deck. This is sort of the deck that he's known for playing. So you should be sort of expecting that. And he's getting pretty badly punished. He's going to lose the first missile.
Yeah, Greeno, I think, made a pretty colossal error by going into the Razorback, because as you say, Maximus always goes into Talon. He always plays this exact same deck. When you see Maximus queue into you as Strong Arm, you know it's this deck. The only thing that ever changes is what that tech unit is. Everything else is always, the first 5 units are always the same. He always plays Strong Arm with it. So going into Razorback, you know your opponent's going to go Talon. You can just go Pitbull, because you know your opponent's going to go Talon. So I'm a little surprised to see Greeno make that mistake, honestly.
There is the rocks on this map. There are those rocks that mean the air maneuverability is much better on this, and you can dance around against the pitfalls a bit. So there's a bit of an advantage going air. But if you go Razorback, your opponent goes Talon. They're going to make 2 Talons. Your Razorback is going to kill the infantry, but then the Talons are going to kill your Razorback. You're going to lose the missile, which is exactly what happened. Maybe
Greeno thought because he had the Hammerhead, he'd be able to deal with these Talons. But as you can see here, even though the Hammerhead is amazing versus Talons, Maximus is a master of making Talons. Like, he is one of the best players in the world at clicking that Talon button. He makes more Talons than anyone else I've ever seen in my entire life. He absolutely loves Talon. He's a true Talon spammer. So even though Greeno does make that Hammerhead and it is very good versus Talons, it actually gets overwhelmed by the sheer number of Talons that Maximus makes.
Yeah, Maximus is quite a talented player.
Good one.
So yeah, he's one of these players who plays very aggressively. He spams units all the time. Talon, one of the best ones to spam. It's an air unit. It's
here comes the flip. I think this is, he doesn't get the Talon on the pad. Sorry, I thought Maximus was going to take it, but the Talon actually sat next to the Pitbull instead of going onto the pad.
Yeah, he's spamming out jump jets now. If he can get something across, if he can get jump jet onto his bottom pad, he might be able to take it.
Ooh, and Greeno does not finish those jump jets. He switches into the other one and tries to go left. He does get there just in time, though. But it's not going to be enough. The Pitbull goes down. And that's going to be it. Maximus takes it. I think Greeno's big misplay there was he tried to use the Razorback to go left, and what he should have done is clear the jump jets from the right and the top instead.
Establishing.
Alright guys, here we go. Game 2, Greeno versus Maximus. Maximus is up 1-0. And Maximus sticking with that strong arm, so I suspect we'll see exactly the same deck from him. And Greeno, slight change to his deck. Oh, slight changes on both sides. Maximus switched the Sandstorm into Wolverine, back to his classic ladder build. He loves that Wolverine. Only player I've seen play Wolverine at high level. Still hasn't made it look good, just to be clear. It still looks terrible, but but he loves playing them.
It looks good. The problem is the functionality of the unit is quite bad.
Yeah. And yeah, Greeno has switched his deck around a fair bit. He switched the Hammerhead into a Slingshot, which makes sense. Going up against Maximus, Slingshot's very strong. The thing is, because Maximus plays Orca, and because Maximus plays Orca very well, Slingshot is not as amazing versus him as you'd expect. Because Orcas can beat Slingshots 1v1. But yeah, Greeno with the switching the Hammerhead into a Slingshot. This will give him a lot of game against those Talons, which I think is probably his plan.
Unit lost.
Yeah, you see he's forgone the typical build he had before, and he's catered his deck a little bit more to Maximus, although he has then gone Razorback, and Maximus immediately goes Talon.
Yeah,
so,
but you can see here that Greeno has intentionally been keeping this missile stalled. He wants to buy more time. We're at 1 minute 8 and the missile hasn't fired yet. This was intentional so that he could go Razorback and then immediately make the Slingshot, which is exactly what he did. So Greeno knew what he was doing in this game, and he's pulled off his plan perfectly. Now he's got the Slingshot plus the Razorback. This basically beats everything in Maximus's deck. It's really hard for Maximus to beat this combo.
Unit lost.
Yeah, he has the cheap units, but these units, the Slingshot and the Razorback, are good against cheap air and cheap infantry. So it's very difficult for Maximus to push here. He's going to have to use probably a combination of the strong arm turret and multiple units at once to break up this combination.
Yeah, so Maximus is forced to go into Wolverine here, basically just so he has something that doesn't die to Razorback and Slingshot. This is one of the issues with playing one of these decks that is heavily built around 2 buildings. If your opponent has tier 2 answers to both of your buildings, it's really, really hard to win that game. Especially when those answers are things like Razorback and Slingshot that are both very oppressive versus those unit types. Like if it was something like a Shatterer, which is good versus infantry, but very, very bad versus air, then it's a lot easier to deal with. But because it's Slingshot, Razorback, both which are very strong and oppressive units, it's really hard for Maximus to break this combo.
So it's so difficult for him to beat the Slingshots. His Talon spam are obviously completely ineffectual against it. Although the Wolverine is looking cool.
The Wolverine does look cool, that's true. It looks cool, however it did nothing. It just immediately walked into a Predator and died.
But it looked cool.
It did. And now it looks like Greeno's going to take this game fairly easily. This basically just came down to Greeno outdecked Maximus. Greeno, he's making a bit of a meal of it here, honestly, but he is still winning.
It's just Maximus spamming units, but they're not making any meaningful impact on the map. It's just delaying the inevitable.
Well, I think Maximus was close to flipping that missile a couple of times, but Greeno just outdecked so hard there that he was just miles ahead in terms of the matchup. Game 3, Maximus versus Greeno. It's 1-1. Maximus has switched to Nod. I think this makes a lot of sense given how hard countered his deck was last game. It doesn't make sense to bring the same deck and just get hard countered again if Greeno doesn't switch. And Greeno does not switch. Maximus has, however, switched heavily and is now playing a Rockworm deck. I think this is a very good choice against what Greeno is doing. This is also a very good map for it.
Yeah, it's nice to see the development as we go through these series. It's easier to do in a best of 5 as well, where you can change up the deck based on what you expect your opponent to do. Rockworm is completely insane as a unit, and it's going to be very good in this matchup as well. The rest of Maximus's deck being just the classic good Nod units. Yeah,
this 5-card deck is the standard build for Nod right now, and then your last unit is flexible. Often in the meta deck it's Scorpion Tank, but obviously you can also just play a Tech Splash like Rockworm. Greeno, I think, is going to be in trouble here. It's going to be really hard for him to actually beat a Rockworm. He's going to have to probably use Predator tanks, and that's not going to go great for him.
The way the game has played out as well has allowed Maximus to stall out the game quite a bit. His units have not been things that Greeno has been able to put pressure on. Missiles are just not a very good offensive unit at any stage of the game. So the game has stalled out quite a lot, and we're looking at a missile not going to fire until about 1.5 minutes, maybe later.
And Maximus manages to take down that first Razorback with just bikes, which is really, really bad for Greeno. Like, normally people play Stealth Tank because just bikes isn't good enough against the missile Razorback, but Greeno has I mean, he's not played it great, I have to say, and losing that Razorback to Bikes feels pretty bad.
He's going to lose another one as well, I think.
Looks like it, yeah. There it goes.
It does go down, and the missile is still just ticking over. It even looks like potentially Maximus might take it.
Maximus does take it. This is a nightmare for Greeno. Greeno now has to win 2 missiles against Rockworms. I don't know how he does that, honestly. I think he can maybe kill 1 Rockworm, but I don't know how he ever beats a 2nd or a 3rd Rockworm. And now that the game is going to 3 missiles... Oh, sorry, now the game is going to at least 3 missiles for Maximus. I just don't see how Greeno kills multiple Rockworms.
Yeah, I'm assuming that now we're saving up. Maximus is gonna make the Rockworm, and
Yep.
Charlie's gonna be in trouble because the lasers don't really do anything against it. The Predator tank is gonna be okay, but you're gonna need more than one. You're gonna need sort of a combination, and the pop-up damage on the missiles, if he gets a good pop-up here, is gonna be, yeah, you see the Predator goes down like a sack of shit, basically.
And these missiles, the pop-up damage means the Rockworm will one-shot that whole missile squad now. I don't know why he's running away. I think this is a misplay. I think this Rockworm should just be fighting. Yeah, and he does kind of move around a little bit. Rockworm does take out that Predator very easily. Stealth Tank cleans up this Razorback here, and that should just be game.
Dominant performance from Maximus, very nice.
Another pretty strong deck counter there. So we're seeing a lot of back and forth on the decks, and Maximus does take that one thanks to deck once again. All right, guys, this is match point for Maximus. As we were just saying before in the lobby, this is really interesting because there's been a lot of counter decking going on, but now Maximus is on match point, so he can bring whatever he wants, and it's on Greeno to get it correct on the counter. Otherwise, he's just done for the day. So very interesting. Maximus has gone for the Agent Shadow not aggro with the Ceph, with the Ceph Shade. Greeno has gone for a triple air Marauder deck. This is sort of like a Natural Sky style deck, but with Kane. I think Kane is not great on this map, but I might be wrong about that. I haven't played Kane on this map for a long time.
I think it might be in expectation of having an out to the Rockworm. Like his deck otherwise is just going to lose to Rockworm. So he's like, if he brings the same deck as last time, I don't want to be soft to the Rockworm. But he's got the laser drones, and it's against Nod.
Yep. Laser drones are very strong versus Nod.
Combo very strong against Nod.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right. The Kane is mostly for Rockworm. I think Kane can be okay on this map because it can hold. I think you can put it next to this rock, and then it holds the 2 pads. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it's an amazing Kane map. I think it's a fine minus Kane map.
All maps are good Kane maps.
Well, Kane is better versus squads now, so.
That's true. Kane is better versus squads because it costs less.
That's true.
Which apparently doesn't make it better versus single units, but just squads.
Well, I think it makes it better versus both. I just wanted to tell you how much better it was versus squads. Alright, so Greeno has misplayed quite a bit here. He's done a little bit too much movement with his Venoms. Oh, doesn't quite stall. I think his Venoms moved around a little bit too much, didn't get enough shots off. And the Maximus drill pod was absolutely huge because it blocked out the militants from killing off these lasers. So the drill pod wins that missile for Maximus there. Whereas Greeno obviously is on the Kane, utterly worthless in that first missile. Could still be decent in the matchup. If he Kanes and gets a stealth tank, that's a pretty good trade just right away. So it's not going to be completely horrendous, but definitely Ceph is going to be the superior commander choice for this matchup.
Yeah, and for the first missile, of course, it's much cheaper. Gives you a bit more maneuverability and pad holding, and doesn't get impacted by pop cap immediately.
Yeah, you can spawn it when you
to go into Fanatics, and as you always say, a Fanatic deck wants an excuse to make Fanatics. So they get the Fanatics out. Fanatics are gonna trade for the beefy boys, which is fine. We've got some laser drones trying to chase down this skank, which is not working out great.
Here comes that Ceph again, and the Ceph once again is going to be very strong. Though actually Maximus doesn't move it quickly enough, and Greeno responds immediately with Venom, gets a lot of damage on it. Very nice play from Greeno. Maximus has an idle stealth tank. I don't think he realizes this. The stealth tank that killed the Harvester is idling. He could have used it to kill that Venom, but didn't. Here comes the Obelisk. This is going to take out this stealth tank if it gets a chance. Nope, the stealth tank goes down first. Does clear out those lasers. Pretty good for Greeno here. This the extra pop cap from not having a Harvester really paying off here with his cheap deck. He doesn't actually need the extra money that badly. He's performing quite well with no Harvester here, and that does end up taking him the missile. I think Maximus just misplayed a little bit there. Forgot about that stealth tank for a little while. So had the other one drive all the way around and ended up losing both of them because of that. I think that really hurt Maximus.
Yeah, Charlie was also spamming a lot of laser drones, just clogging up the map with them basically, and making it quite difficult for Maximus to effectively maneuver around. This Phantom's going on a bit of a vision quest.
Yep. Not a lot of targets for it.
I think maybe he's trying to lose it. Maybe it's, yeah, he wants the pop cap, I think.
Here comes another drill pod, and you can see how, like, because Charlie has this laser drone, these laser drones that are very strong versus Nod. Maximus' best answer is laser troops. If Greeno had Seth instead of Kane to take care of lasers near the end of the missile, that would be extremely strong for him. It's falling apart a bit here. Greeno trying to get on these pads, but you see, here comes the laser troops. And Greeno, if he had a drill pod right now to kill these lasers, it would also take out the fanatics at the back. It'd be really strong. Instead, he's stuck with this Kane, which he picks to counter probably rockworms. Isn't able to make it. It just has no impact, and that's going to be it. There it is, the Kane slightly too late to be relevant.
Does throw Maximus. It out as a salute to
Maximus
Kane.
Does take it. Alright guys, here we go. Second semi-finals. Boswell versus Great Boy. Boswell, not actually a regular in my tournaments, but he is a regular in competitive rivals. Very talented player. Great Boy, completely unknown. Don't know Great Boy at all. Never seen him play a tournament before today. So very interested to see how this one goes.
Boswell bringing an aggressive GDI deck, and Great Boy bringing, I think it's the same Nod deck we saw before, which is an unusual combination of units. He's also opened double infantry before Harvester.
Yeah, the double infantry open is not actually an insane play. It's something you can do regularly if you expect to go up against double Harvester openings to make it much easier much harder for your opponent to stall. It also can give you a good edge in the opening rifle mirror, but Great Boy didn't put his rifles together. So what ended up happening is, even though he had 2 rifles out before Boswell did, Boswell still got the 2v1 and comes out ahead here. So yeah, a little bit of misplay there from Great Boy, I think. Boswell switches into Talon. Great Boy makes buggies as the counter instead of bike, which is very unusual. But it's looking pretty good for him here. He pushes across to the left. He takes all 3 pads. And yeah, buggy in a gun, taking that first missile.
Buggy in a gun. Yeah, taking down the first missile. Very nice.
And
matches up well against the Talon, honestly.
It does, yeah.
One of the few units where it does match up well.
Yeah, traditionally buggy is good on first missile. Also, traditionally, the reason that buggy and rhino are quite bad units is tanks. Tanks make them truly embarrassing, and tanks are quite common in the metagame. But they have been becoming less popular these days. Like, tanks are a lot less common. It used to be that every deck played tanks. Now it's, you know, only the Fnatic deck plays Scorpion a lot of the time, or sometimes you see Razorbacks playing Predator. And without tanks in the game, buggy is not horrendous. You know, it's not good still, but it's not awful.
They haven't been looking great.
They looked good first missile, which is when buggy and rhino are good. Obviously, after that, they've looked a little bit weaker, which is normally how that unit works.
The Pitbull and Razorback sort of hunted them down, and have wiped out the buggies. Sadly, they've become extinct on the map. But the laser drone spam coming out, maybe he can
get some stall
long enough.
But the Liang drone means he can't win. He would have got a flip here if not for Liang drone.
Yeah, it would have worked perfectly if it wasn't for Liang. These pesky Liang drones. Rivals would be great if it wasn't for these pesky Liangs getting in the way.
You're not wrong. And now Boswell has good matchups.
He might still take it. The Phantom doesn't kill a Razorback in one shot, obviously, so he's not going to clear that pad. Let's move the Phantom around nicely.
I don't know, but it could be a flip here. Could be a flip from Great Boy. He might take it here. Go, Great Boy, go! And he's done it! He's done it with the air spam!
The new hero.
Good job, Great Boy. Yeah, and Boswell, it looked like he was taking over that game, but just a couple of nice plays from Great Boy pushed him back over the edge. And that was all that was needed to take it. Good job, Great Boy. Alright guys, game 2, Boswell versus Great Boy. Great Boy is up 1-0, really coming out of nowhere. Not seen this guy in tournaments before. Boswell, a tournament regular. So yeah, good to see that Great Boy's making it competitive. And we see the same deck from Great Boy, and Boswell looks like he didn't have Slingshot before, right?
Yeah, no, the Slingshot is new. He did sort of get overwhelmed by air units at the end there in a game that looked like he was pretty dominant in, so it makes sense. And we see Great Boy changing up his strategy a little bit. He goes the Scout into the Harvester and then makes the second unit afterwards, so he's now assessed that he does not think Boswell is going to be a double Harvester tech guy. Changes it up, good adapt.
Yep, and I think that's because so many people with Liang are playing this Titan deck, it's a good idea to assume it's the Titan deck the first game, which is probably why Great Boy made that play. Boswell, of course, seeing similar play pattern from Great Boy, has gone into this early pitbull to deal with the buggies that are coming out. I believe last time he went air and it ended up punishing him because the buggies were so good versus his talons. But yeah, this time he goes into War Factory, which I think is probably better. He's actually going triple building here. This is what GDI often wants to do. GDI is usually a deck that requires all 3 buildings. So GDI is usually looking to buy time at the start of a game of Rivals against Nod, specifically to get this scenario where you get all of your buildings open. As you can see, he's got a unit from each building on the field, and without them, it would be very difficult for him to contest. He does end up losing the missile anyway. That is often the way it goes, because GDI is weaker in the early game. You need all 3 of your buildings. Nod often wins the first missile.
Great Boy needs to interact with this Razorback in some way. You can't let a Razorback sort of march around the map doing what it wants. It's difficult to kill with bikes, as you mentioned previously. If it stays around, he can't make his mutants, and he'll get forced off the map because he won't be able to compete with it. He has killed it now with the bikes, which is good, but immediately another one comes out. And again, the map's looking reasonably good for Boswell, but this was the case in the first game as well.
Ooh, Boswell preemptively slingshots here, and it ends up being a good play because Great Boy immediately goes into Phantom, although the Phantom does take out the Razorback, so even if he loses his Phantom now, it's not the worst thing in the world because it has done its job. Bikes come out from Great Boy. Phantom still alive, is going to take care of this Talon, probably lose it to the slingshot here in exchange. No, it does keep it alive. I think it might have been correct to let it die there, because now he has this Phantom that can't contest, and we're so close to the end of the missile. I think actually it'd be better just to not have it at all. So I think actually saving it was actually a misplay. Yeah, here it comes. It just dies to 2 pitbull shots. And I think Great Boy would have preferred to have that pop cap a little bit sooner. So yeah, I think actually a little bit of a misplay to save that Phantom. Weird though it sounds.
To choose to lose a unit when you can save it though.
Yes. I think it does end up punishing him, because as you see here, he does lose his missile, doesn't get enough units out in time. I think that pop cap would have been worth more to him than the 1 hit point Phantom, which ended up dying anyway.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, I think. When we see a heavy vehicle push from Boswell now. This is a good map for the slingshot, positioning it behind the missile like that. Can contest across all 3 pads, if it's the bottom of the top pad there as well. Plus the Razorback, the slingshot Razorback, it's the similar combination. You have something that stops their interaction with the Razorback, then Razorback wins the game. Yep. On its own, basically.
Yep, that's basically what we're seeing here. Once again, it is the classic. I make Razorback. I make something that stops you killing my Razorback, and then you just ride Razorback to victory, which is what we're seeing here. Great Boy actually looking very strong on the field here. He's got double mutant. The Razorback is going to go down. I think Great Boy is in very strong position here. It's going to be really hard for Boswell to clear both of these mutant marauders in time.
Phantom might survive long enough as well.
Oh, I don't think so. Oh, Boswell going for the flip. Is it going to be enough? Oh, not quite. And Great Boy gets the flip back.
Very nice.
And that's going to be 2-0 to Great Boy.
Very nice. Great Boy coming through strong.
Here we go, guys. Match point for Great Boy here, the newcomer to the tournament scene. At least my tournaments, at least. 2-0 versus Boswell, a tournament regular. So really very impressive stuff from Great Boy here.
New objective received.
Great Boy bringing the... So he has won 2 games with his Nod deck. He's now switched into the GDI deck we saw him make before, which I think is just, as you say, a no harvester MG play. So he's going to put Boswell to the test, say, can you beat my no harvester MG strategy or not? And it is something where Boswell's going to need to interact with it fairly early on, because if the slingshot gets set up, then the Razorback won't take out the MG, and you can just never get on the map.
Okay, so firstly, this is like an old school no harv MG deck. And I would agree with your assessment if it wasn't for the fact that Great Boy is playing Strong Arm. I think the issue here is going to be that Strong Arm is not going to protect this MG. I think the Razorback can kill an MG through a slingshot, and we're going to find out here. Yes, it can. You see how the Razorback is at higher hit points than the MG. Boswell can trade a Razorback for an MG at any time he wants. And Great Boy is no halving. He does not have the resources to continuously make this trade. Boswell can afford to trade that 60 for 30 over and over, as long as it buys him map presence, which is all he wants. So I think Great Boy is really, really unfavored in this matchup.
Yeah, you also lose the positioning. You lose the setup MG position, then trying to get back in if there's a Razorback is completely impossible.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Liang holding down the fort and healing up your units, like a Liang drone there, would have kept the Sling alive, which would have kept the MG alive. The Razorback would have gone down, the Pitbull would have gone down. you would have locked out the game effectively. But without the Liang, the OP Liang, he loses his position on the field. He did take first missile, of course, being no half, but he's lost his position on the field. He's very poor. Boswell, very rich, despite the German economy slacking a bit with coronavirus. But he's got 2 Razorbacks out, 2 Pitbulls, 70 tip. Should be Boswell's game now. Yeah,
this one is over at this point. The issue is that if you play a deck like a no-half MG deck, there are generally no harvester decks tend to be very, very weak to the powerful mid-range units. So if you're playing no-half, it's really hard to beat Razorback. It's really hard to beat Orca Bomber. Anything that requires an expensive response and cleans up cheap units very easily is really hard to beat with no-half. And Great Boy cannot, he simply cannot beat Razorbacks on his no-half deck, and that's what we're seeing here. If he was playing, like we said, if he was playing the Liang, there's a small chance that he can Liang the MG and the Sling, keep them both alive, take out the Razorback, and then he costs him only 50 to trade for that Razorback, and he can maintain his position is the important thing. But because he doesn't have the Liang, it's just a sweep. You can see, like, there's no way. No half simply cannot beat Razorbacks. That is the issue here.
Also, nice work by Boswell to not panic against the MG.
Yep.
Maintained his units, waited for the Razorback. Gave up the first missile, in fact, to keep his Razorback and made sure that he could go in and take it out.
Alright guys, here we go again. Still match point for Great Boy. We're on fighting pit now. Looks like Great Boy's gone back to that nod. Boswell sticking with Liang. I think we'll probably see the same nod deck from Great Boy here. Yeah, we do see exactly the same nod deck. And Boswell has switched up his deck slightly again. He's gone for Hammerhead instead of Sling now. And I don't remember him having jump jets. Is that new?
He's had jump jets in one of the previous decks. I think not the last one, but the one before he had jump jets.
Yeah, given that Great Boy has played the same nod deck 3 times now, and he played it earlier in the tournament, I think it's safe to say that Great Boy only really feels comfortable with these 2 decks. Boswell is switching up his deck slightly each time, trying to find that combination of units that will beat both the GDI and the nod. And I think now that he's realized the GDI he just needs Razorbacks really to counter the GDI, he's really just looking to beat this nod deck.
Yeah, here comes the Buggy, which is Great Boy's sort of talisman unit at this point. Razorback comes out from Boswell, so the infantry now getting wiped out on both sides. Spike's trying to chase down the Razorback that jukes around the missile. Isn't getting much work done.
No, I think Razorback has an error.
Going to take the first missile again.
Yeah, I think Boswell keeps falling into this trap of going into the Razorback, and it just isn't getting a lot of work done. Because the Buggies allow Great Boy to kill missiles without losing to Razorbacks. He's got a unit that can do that. That kind of breaks up the Razorback missile combo, which is a very important part of beating Razorback decks. So these Buggies, once again, showing how strong they are on first missile. They start to fall off after first missile, but they are a very good unit first missile.
Yeah, actually, Boswell making another Razorback just to clear these flamers, I guess. He thinks jump jets can deal with anything from the War Factory.
Yeah.
But the combination of units from Great Boy has been pretty good. The Razorback hasn't been hugely effective against him. He's answering it quite well when it does come out. And it's not a cheap unit. He's keeping the map very mobile. It looks like he's going to kill another Razorback here. Boswell having to make a 3rd Razorback in the match against what has honestly been not very much infantry.
Here comes the Liang drone to contest. I think this might be Boswell's missile.
Okay, it should be.
Yes, he does take it. And this is a big deal for Boswell, because as I've said many times before, as the game progresses, Boswell's deck is the favorite in the later game. Once he gets the combination of units set up with the Razorback plus the Pitbulls plus the jump jets, that kind of thing. He's also got the Hammerhead. Like, once he gets to the late game and can use these powerful units, he is going to be favored against Great Boy.
Do you think at this point Great Boy should be considering perhaps trying to get a Phantom out?
Yeah,
that's what he does.
He does, yeah, because the mutants are going to be really good here. It's actually like Boswell can't really kill the mutants without Razorback. So if Great Boy can keep Phantom alive to take care of Razorbacks, then the mutants are going to dominate the battlefield.
So we see that interaction here. The Phantom survives. I don't think it's going to be able to get back
Ooh,
onto
he makes
this
another
Razorback.
Phantom. This is a bit of an overcommitment, I think, to a unit that low. Boswell has put Hammerhead in his deck now to fight this Phantom. Hammerhead is doing that job. It hits Phantom twice, almost kills it. Does trade. Very good for him there. Is it going to be enough, though? Great Boy looking kind of strong here. Double Razorback from Boswell. Great Boy has to respond with the Phantom. I don't know if this Phantom's going to reload in time. This could be missile for Boswell. Oh, not quite the full. Oh my god, so close. The Pitbull goes down, and the 1 hit point Razorback clears the mutant just in time to fire the missile for Boswell and takes it to a 5th game.
Yeah, the Phantom not one-shotting the Razorback, pretty critical there.
All right, guys, here we go. Match point, game 5. Boswell versus Great Boy. It's 2-2. Great Boy bringing that same nod, I assume. Maybe some changes. And Boswell again. Boswell, very interesting. He keeps tuning his deck, trying to make it slightly better each time. Looks like he's happy with the configuration he has now. The Great Boy's bringing the same deck, and Boswell happy with what he's built, and is now bringing this same deck he played last game. So obviously he's confident this is the one to beat Great Boy's nod. Great Boy again going with that double rifle start. Very interesting to see. Wants to get control. The reason to do this a lot of the time is to get you effectively can win the militant war by being in defender's position first. Because you have 2, your opponent can't hold pads against you. You can 2v1 them, which allows you to get this defender's advantage. Which defender's advantage forces your opponent to tech switch, which is very strong. However, Great Boy goes into Buggy first, allowing Boswell to respond to it. I would not be surprised to see a Pitbull from Boswell here to handle these Buggies. But again, Buggy's so good first missile. The Pitbull's not going to be anywhere near in time. And Great Boy taking first missile every single game with this nod deck just off the back of the power of Buggy in the early game.
Yeah, he has definitely identified that the typical transition for GDI of going into Razorback to answer the early infantry is kind of weak to Buggy. It's quite an expensive unit to get Razorback out, and then you have a Buggy to respond. Boswell didn't do that this time. He waited, he went into Pitbull, but it was too slow, and Great Boy has taken the first missile again off the back of Buggy and a gun. Yep.
And the thing is, Boswell, I think, has not correctly identified the correct way to punish a play like this. There's 2 things Boswell could have done. The first thing is play Nod and open with Wheels, because then you have access to Scorpion Tank. If you play Scorpion Tank in your deck, then you have access to Scorpion Tank, which makes Buggy immediately a terrible unit. You can very easily Scorpion Tank first missile, and it just makes Buggy embarrassing. The other thing he could have done is simply put Mohawk in his deck, and then he can open into that Razorback and still have Mohawk to fight Buggies. So here comes second missile. This is going to be very important. If Great Boy can take this one, he wins. Does not get on that left pad. Razorback survives that Phantom. And yeah, Boswell holds out on the right pad just long enough to fire that missile. Boswell obviously needs that missile badly. He's lost first missile. So yeah, here we go into final missile. Sorry?
It's been very close on these missiles. Like the map control has switched back and forth. Both players moving in lots of different locations at once, which is very difficult in terms of the playstyle to keep up with. And Great Boy is doing a good job of keeping his units maneuvering around and not letting bad matchups happen for Boswell. It's sort of the power of Boswell's units is winning him these pads, and the fact that Razorback doesn't die to the Phantom has been critical as well.
Yep. And we've also seen the maps we've played on have been quite good for the Razorback, because they've been maps where you can keep your Razorback near your anti-air units while still contesting pads. This map is a lot more spread out. The 3 pads are split up, so it's a little bit harder for the Razorback to get around and dominate the map as much. And you can see here how Great Boy has a much better map control based on this. It's much harder for Boswell to use that Razorback to kill these mutants that are all over the place. So here comes the Seth. This takes out the Jump Jet's bottom. Another Phantom to kill this drone. It's looking very good for Great Boy here. I think this is Great Boy's game to lose at this point. He sends the Phantom left. Is that... maybe should have sent it bottom. It looks like it's going to be enough. And there it is. Great Boy takes it 3-2. Congratulations, Great Boy. And I think that came down to, as I was saying, like that map was so much better for what Great Boy was doing than what Boswell was doing, because the Razorback could not live near anti-air units all the time. It had to split up. He had to split his units up constantly, and that heavily favors the Nod deck that is playing a lot of individually powerful units, because the Nod deck is an aggro deck and the GDI is a mid-range. So mid-range units want to be in a group together, and aggro decks want to split up their units and have good matchups all over the map. And that was a great aggro map, and Great Boy playing the aggro deck does take it. Okay, guys, here we are. Game 1 of the finals. The newcomer Great Boy bringing it all the way to the finals. He is going to qualify along with Maximus, who normally comes 4th, but without the big boys here, has managed to come top 2. Congratulations, Maximus. Maximus playing his standard deck. Yeah, sorry, big boys and big girl. That makes it sound like I'm calling her fat. All right. Maximus bringing his standard deck. Great Boy also bringing standard deck. Very interesting to see how this goes, because again, weirdly, actually, you know what? I think the Buggy is going to be a liability, because Maximus...
Really good, right?
No, Maximus has the Orca. Yeah, Maximus has
He's
Orca.
gonna go Talon,
Yeah.
and that's bad against the buggy.
It doesn't matter because the Maximus will run away from the buggies until he gets an Orca and then he'll one-shot them.
Oh, we'll see.
I think
the buggies are going to be gas.
I think that the problem Boswell had was that he was going into Air Tower and then had to go War Factory to fight buggies. That was his issue. He needed all 3 buildings. Maximus is playing a 2-building deck. He can fight the buggy and the infantry with just his Air Tower in barracks, which is what we're seeing here. So Great Boy with some nice buggy micro does keep it alive for a long time here, keeping away from that Orca. Well, he's moved off this pad. Moves back on to get the stall. Even eats some Orca shots here. Great Boy really looking very impressive. Oh, ooh, it's close. Oh, and the misfire on the Orca.
He's making you sweat on it.
He really is. He's making me sweat as the caster here. Here comes the drill pod. The bikes are going to be in time to... Oh, no, they're not. The Orca finishes the buggy with only 1 missile. Turns around and takes out those bikes. Oh, and there it is. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. The Orca is just so good versus Great Boy's first 2 buildings. Great Boy needs... Like, this is what Boswell needed. Boswell needed to be winning with his first 2 buildings to force Great Boy to go triple building.
Yeah. Predictably, you were right and I was wrong when it came down to the different interactions in Rivals. And now, yeah, Great Boy under a lot of pressure. His harvest is about to go down. He needs to build a Phantom to control the skies, but when he builds the Phantom, the Talons are going to come out and trade for them eventually, you would expect. Or maybe even we'll see the Wolverine. I see the tech lab. Here it is.
Yep.
The Wolverine. With
Actually,
this skin looking pretty cool.
It's one of those weird matchups where, because Great Boy's anti-vehicle is... bikes are the only unit he has that's really good against Wolverine. Because mutants will go down to Wolverine and so will laser drones. So his anti-vehicle options are actually quite weak against Wolverine. So he's going to have to use bikes, but the bikes are easily shut down by the jump jets. So I think Maximus, very strong position here. Really hard for Great Boy to deal with this this setup.
Yeah, actually, as you say, that the Wolverine, one of the better tech options he could have.
Yep.
Against this, seeing the buggy and the Wolverine come into their own in this tournament, perhaps going to increase their position on the tier list.
It seems unlikely. It's one of those things where, again, the reason the buggy and the Wolverine are decent is because no one is bringing tanks. Tanks make both of those units absolutely horrendous, but if no one brings tanks, then those units are not as bad as they normally are. Alright guys, here we go. Game 2, Maximus versus Great Boy. Maximus is 1-0 up with out-aggroed Great Boy in the aggro mirror. These decks, of course, being true aggro decks, not just not tech, which is what most people call aggro. These decks are actually aggro decks. And Great Boy starts with that militant once again, wants to get that defensive position. Huge fan of that on this map. This map is rushing. The rocks in the middle make it really difficult to push in, so I think getting the defensive advantage is really important. Although Great Boy kind of gives it up there a little bit, so not a big fan of that. He could just stat on that middle. I think he was worried that Maximus would go to his top pad, but it does end up... oh wow, and Great Boy's just abandoning the middle now. Really don't like this play.
Great Boy, he just wants to be charging. He's just charging 24/7. He wants to just always have the missile charging. I say that he is stalling at the moment. He has previously been moving stuff around, so to always try and get the missile charging as much as possible. Yeah,
and Maximus goes straight into this Talon. Great Boy responds to the buggy. Same as last game. Maximus goes right into that Orca. The Orca's going to punish the buggy. And this is the thing. If you have a unit that makes buggy bad, then buggy is absolutely terrible. And Great Boy's buggy goes down. It did nothing. He literally just lost 30 Tiberium. Orca comes in. It's going to clean up the second buggy. That's going to be 60 Tiberium down. This Orca's basically paid for itself at this point. And this is the problem. Once you have a unit that is good versus buggy, buggy is a really bad unit. Oh, nice micro on the bikes, though, to take... Oh, he does get the Orca. Very nice play from Great Boy to snipe the Orca with those assassin bikes around the back. Unfortunately, Maximus also has jump jets that can 1v1 buggy, so he can just send these jump jets top right. I don't know why Maximus has 2 units top left. Yeah, but he's realized it as well. That's a bit of a misplay there. Jump jets don't live long enough. Turret comes down, though, gets that block. Maximus gets the block with the jump jets. Oh, I don't know. Maximus was a little bit questionable micro here. Is buggy going to get there in time? Just about. And laser drones, maybe the flip here. Very nice play from Great Boy here. Maximus with some really questionable choices on his micro there, I gotta say. Doesn't seem like Great Boy should have had that one. He just played better from that missile.
I can't believe he won that missile.
Yeah, like he just played better.
Turret in place as well. It looked like he was for sure not going to win that. He got laser drones out just in time. That there was so many tight moments there he managed to take the missile, which honestly great play from him and good awareness of the pads. And pretty important as well, because I think if Great Boy loses the first missile, he hasn't looked like his deck lines up that well later in the game. So he needs the first missile to compete, I think.
Yeah, the Wolverines actually look decent against Great Boy's deck. So, yeah, I agree. The Wolverine jump jet combo is clearly something Great Boy struggles with. So getting that first missile is very important. But even then, it looks so hard for him to win from here. I don't know how he gets through the Wolverine jump jet combo. His deck is just very weak to this.
Yeah, his units are all a little flimsy in the face of the Wolverine. I guess he could make... How do mutants do?
Not great. They win on defense. They win on defense, but not on offense.
Now there's 3 Wolverines out.
Yeah, and
like Robocop up in here.
Yeah, Great Boy really doesn't have a lot. Like, Bike's the only unit he can send in to be aggressive against Wolverines. And the Orca and Jump Jets both punish Bikes pretty heavily. So I think Great Boy's deck just lines up quite poorly against Maximus's. So if we see them continue to play this matchup, I would expect Maximus to sweep. But we will see.
The Great Boy has identified that it is bikes that he needs to be making, and he is making the bikes, but like you say, it's difficult to get them in and actually killing the Wolverines before they get taken out themselves.
And this is an issue with decks that play Marauder as their main anti-vehicle unit. If you come up against Wolverines or Flame Tanks, you simply can't kill them. And yeah,
like
Maximus is going to take it pretty comfortably. So yeah, really nice first missile from Great Boy there, but just doesn't have the late game. His deck just cannot beat the Wolverines in the late game, so Maximus takes the next 2 missiles pretty comfortably. Alright guys, match point for Maximus. He is 2-0 currently against Great Boy, and Great Boy switches to Kane. I think this makes a lot of sense, honestly. Like, he's really struggling against those Wolverines. If he wins first missile, like he does... Oh, he's completely switched deck. Okay.
Bigger.
Not a fan of this. Not a fan of this. I like the deck. I like the deck a reasonable amount. I think the Giga is a good choice to deal with the Wolverines. Actually, you know what? Playing Kane with Giga is insane. Like, you have to play Oksana with Giga, so that's nuts to start off with. And then Maximus's deck is an infantry and air deck, so actually Giga's not that strong. Yeah. And then Great Boy's gone with Stealth Tank as his anti-air instead of Phantom. I think Phantom is much stronger versus Maximus, because Phantom actually kills his air units without dying. Like, Stealth Tank can die to Orcas. So I actually think Great Boy, whilst I like the fact he's changed his deck, I don't like what he's changed it into.
Yes, all the things you say are true. The Jump Jets and the Orca Bomb are both pretty good against the Giga. And as you say, Phantom would probably be a better choice than the Stank, even though you have the Fnatic Stank combo, which is nice. Phantom a very strong unit against Maximus typically.
Yeah. So I think that like the Giga is it's like Giga is not really where he wants to be against Maximus, and neither is I mean, Kane makes some sense to me to kill the Wolverines, but you can see his deck is just not lining up well at all.
Maximus with a nice turret there to block out on that bottom pad. Great Boy's stalling here, but it looks like the first missile will probably go to Maximus. Oh,
I don't know. He could get a flip here if he can kill this Talon. If he can kill this jump jet bottom. He doesn't move the wheels in time, and the Stealth Tank's a little bit too late, and Maximus does take first missile.
Yeah, it could have gone either way there. The wheels on the bottom, as you say, they could have maybe jumped on that pad. I'm not sure it was blocked the whole time. But difficult to micro in all the different areas there for Great Boy, obviously. I think once he loses first missile, it's going to be tough for him. He does have the Giga this time, as we said, but it's not going to be great in the matchup. And he seems like a player who relies on aggression, similar, in fact, to Maximus, to try and take down the games.
I actually think that in this matchup, because he has the Stealth Tanks, the Giga, and the Kane, I think Great Boy is the one who wants to go later. Because the Wolverine just isn't going to be good anymore, because Great Boy actually has answers to it now. So I think that actually losing first missile is not that surprising. I think Maximus's deck is the stronger deck first missile on this one. Because now, like you said, Maximus is still playing aggro. Great Boy is now on a mid-range deck. So the issue is that Great Boy is not really... He's still playing it like an aggro deck. And it looks like it's just going to go to Maximus here very cleanly. And unlucky for Great Boy. Looks a little bit...
someone new get to the final.
But, yeah, and I mean, he does qualify, so congratulations to Great Boy. But looked a little bit like he was uncomfortable with that deck, and he didn't really... He tried to change deck, but didn't really know what he was doing with it, I think. Yeah,
perhaps just a little outclassed. Maximus, one of the best with this style of decks. A tournament regular, so well done to Great Boy and Maximus for qualifying. Those guys are both going to be in the 8-person finals.
Yeah.
Along with Victor, Alicia, Lopatka, and Agent. And they're both going to get Vanity as well, which is big hype.
Date TBD. I've not decided date yet for the finals, but yeah, both of those players are going to get some Vanity, and Maximus is going to win himself a sweet $10. Don't spend it all at once, Maximus. And that is going to be the end of the tournament. So congratulations to Maximus, and well done, great boy. The really impressive showing against Boswell there. Unfortunately, does fall at the last hurdle, and that's going to be it from us. So say goodbye, Black Razor.
Goodbye, Black Razor.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's still funny. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and yeah, we'll be back. The next one is not going to be... Next week is May 23rd tournament. Of course, by the time this video is uploaded, that tournament probably already would have happened. And then the next one will be... I don't know when next qualifier is going to be yet, so I will let you guys know. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you all next time.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
And like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.